morning and welcome to Morning Movie News. You better start saving your money now because Marvel Studios has revealed they have movies planned all the way through 2028. I wonder how many phases that is. This was all revealed by Kevin Feige in an exclusive interview with Bloomberg News Service, to promote Captain America: The Winter Soldier. And it's very shrewd because it's basically saying, get on board now because this train is going to run for a very, very long time. And how are you going to catch up on, 28 years of movies or such? I mean, that is really an ambitious slate. But at the rate they're going, in terms of both box office and quality, I mean, look at the reviews for Captain America: The Winter Soldier. I saw it last night. Loved it. Review and spoiler review coming out at around noon today. But I think they could go through 2028. But do we have any details as to what that will entail? Well, of course, we know through Ant-Man, basically. And I think, this is not really a spoiler for the film. But if you don't like spoilers of any degree, this is such a non-spoiler, though. But really, you can click forward just a few seconds. Okay, just a few seconds forward, click. They mention Stephen Strange's name in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. That's it. They just say his name. But by doing that, I think he's either going to show up on television, but I think more likely he's going to have his own film. And we've discussed the idea they'll be going into the supernatural for Phase 3, particularly with the introduction of the Scarlet Witch. So I think Stephen Strange, everybody's hoping maybe a Black Panther movie. We definitely have Captain America 3 on the horizon, a Thor 3, Iron Man's pretty much done, Ant-Man might take off. But the other big headline that came out of this interview was that the standalone films you might be getting is a Guardians of the Galaxy spin-off films. They're saying the reverse of what happened with the Avengers. They built up to the team, but with Guardians of the Galaxy, they will introduce the team and then splinter them off into their own films. I don't think that's a good idea, actually. I think that Marvel has to be very careful with the way they're constructing this Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's like playing Jenga. You got to be really careful the whole thing doesn't topple over. And I think the Guardians of the Galaxy cast individually are weak blocks. I think they work as a team, they're supposed to be a team, and they've never even really existed individually in the comics. They don't have their own adventures even there. So I think that the idea, hopefully Kevin Feige's just saying that to be like, go see Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to splinter it off into, multiple films that you're going to be missing out on if you don't go and see it. But I think there are so many more Marvel characters. Captain Marvel, many people want to see. She-Hulk. Why doesn't Hulk have his own movies? So many characters to explore. I don't think maybe they're like, we already built the animation, package for Rocket Raccoon. Let us use it somewhere else. Well, let him cameo in somebody else's movie then. I think Guardians of the Galaxy spin-off movies are a mistake. I think that the whole identity of that project is that they are a team, and they've never splintered off in the comics before, so there's no reason to do so in the movies. So I think that that's basically the story through 2028 for the first story today. I'm curious how you guys feel about it. Do you think that's too much? Is that such a lofty idea that they would continue to make Marvel movies through that date that it kind of puts you off? Are you like, now you've just gone too far, Kevin Feige, with your hyperbole? Or are you like, heck yeah, sign me up? I wonder if they should consider selling some kind of Marvel fan ticket that just is a discount rate for all these movies because of what they're asking people to commit to. So that's the first story of the day. The second story of the day, also comic book related. Somebody tweeted me and they're like, do you ever report on anything that isn't comic book news? And I can't help it that is, not only where the industry is headed in terms of, ticket sales, but where clearly audience interest is. I try to cover, other stories, and I think going forward, I'm going to make a conscious effort for the third story in Morning Movie News every weekday to not be comic book related, and I've done that today, so hold on. But I think that, you are in the minority, the person who complained about that or, wished that there was a more diverse coverage, because this is what everybody wants to see. I check the views as to, what people are interested in, what you guys want to hear about, and not a lot of interest in non-comic book properties. So the other one over on the Warner Brothers side, it was announced yesterday that they have cast 3 new actors in Batman vs. Superman. Holly Hunter, awesome, I love Holly Hunter. Callan Mulvey, and Tao Okamoto. Now they're saying that don't get ahead of yourselves trying to figure out who they're playing. They're all playing new characters. But while they're new to the Batman vs. Superman universe that Zack Snyder is building, this new DC cinematic universe, they're not new to comic book movies, and this speaks to a larger problem that I will address later today in my, briefly, I'll touch on it here as well in my review of Captain America: The Winter Soldier, is that they really need to start building clauses into these actors' contracts that once you pick a universe, a comic book universe, you have to stick in it. You have to stick with it. Because, well, first of all, Holly Hunter, let's take her off the table because this doesn't really apply to her. She is famous for being the voice of Mrs. Incredible, Elastigirl. She's phenomenal there, but she has yet to be in a comic book, pick sides in this comic book box office battle. But I think she's a great choice. I think she's really good. She's really good at doing the heroic stuff. She has a great comedic side to her from, back in the day. Raising Arizona used to be one of my favorite films. I had to kick it off the list because there are just so many good movies out there. But I think it's still up there in terms of, how I feel about it. And she's a great talent. To see her be invited to play at this level with these new blockbusters, I love seeing, the different age groups, another female actress who's brought on who I think will not fall into the pitfalls that a lot of actresses in these movies, fall victim to. And I think she'll just do a great job. So I hope she has a big role. They start having these large casts. that's something in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Some actors that you think would be key or have large roles are really, as I say, just the seeds are planted for later character development. So we'll see how Holly Hunter is being utilized. But the really person I want to talk to is Callan Mulvey. Now, he's in 300, Rise of an Empire. That's what they referenced when they cast him. Zack Snyder was like, he was great in that movie. He's the guy whose son wants to enlist, and he's like, he tells Themistocles, don't let my son fight. And he's like, but if he's half as good as you, how can we not, et cetera, et cetera. And he was pretty good there. He has yet to really, I think, have a meaty role, but he's proven that he can handle the action. And I know some people, I think he was rumored for Lex Luthor at one point, I believe. I remember seeing his name bandied about, and I guess he decided to take him for something else. But when I heard this news, I then went to see Captain America, and there was this guy following around Frank Grillo. And I was like, hey, that's the new guy in the new Batman vs. Superman movie, and he's also from 300. What's he doing here? So I just think it's distracting. It takes you out of the movie momentarily. And Captain America: The Winter Soldier, I guess he's the head of I'm guessing China because it's such a world power. It's the guy from The Dark Knight. It was distracting. The guy Batman extracts from Hong Kong. I was like, how'd he get on this council? He's a bad guy. Don't listen to him. So I just think that they need to be really careful about that. And speaking to that, Tao Okamoto, a new actress, she's relatively new, not a lot of experience in film. She's Mariko from the Wolverine. Or Mariko. How can she then be over this in the Batman versus Superman movie if she's Wolverine's girlfriend? It's just, I think there are a lot of people who want to be actors. There are people who are a lot of people who are already professional working actors. So to double dip like this, I think doesn't benefit anybody. How is she going to return for the Wolverine 2 that they're making? I think that I really do feel this should be built into the contracts at this point. But I'm wondering how you guys feel. Is it unfair to take someone who has such a small role like Callan Mulvey and say, oh, sorry, look, I guess Idris Elba is like, hey, if these guys can jump around, why can't I? Where's my loophole? But so if Callan Mulvey can jump around, I guess why can't Idris Elba? If I was Idris Elba's agent after this weekend, I'd be like, we're going to seriously talk to DC about making you Jon Stewart because this is ridiculous. But I just feel it's distracting to have these actors in here. But I wonder how you guys feel, so write your thoughts down below on that. All right, the third story of the day, non-comic booky as promised. It's about Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight script. Of course, this has made a lot of headlines about how it was leaked against his wishes. He'd only given out to a handful of people, failed to watermark it, so he cannot tell who leaked it. He said he suspects it's Bruce Dern's team over at CAA. He's been suing everybody. He's been suing Gawker for covering it and also really, putting out the link to the leaked copy, publicizing it and putting a spotlight on it. He's like, Gawker, you're driving people to my leaked script. I'm suing you. So anyway, he said he's not making it. And I agreed with Quentin Tarantino on this, to have something, leaked to the public in a manner that you did not want, and to have people in Hollywood so disrespectful of your wishes and your work, your hard work, I think is, I would be pretty upset too, and that would really taint the experience for me as well. Now, some people are saying, now that they've read it, this seems to be word on the interwebs, is that it's not that good. It's not as good as his other work, and some people are even intimating that he maybe intentionally had it leaked, or saw it being leaked as an opportunity to kind of find a way to not do the film, even though he talked it up a lot. This was an out. But apparently he feels good enough that it can be done as a stage reading, because that's what Quentin Tarantino has decided to do. Just like Jason Reitman has popularized recasting classic films with current actors and doing a staged reading for people to come and see, Quentin Tarantino is going to do the same thing with Hateful Eight, so it can be realized to some degree. Now, it's going to be performed on April 24th in Los Angeles, so if you're anywhere in that area, tickets go on sale to the general public on April 16th through Film Independent, I believe. I think that's an organization apparently that does a lot of script readings in Los Angeles. They say different ways for you to experience film. I think that's very commendable. And it will be held at the LA County Museum of Art. So you can probably visit either website to find out more about how to get a ticket. As I said, they go on sale April 16th to the public. Members, I believe, of Film Independent can get their tickets earlier, so it might be worth joining. I don't know if there's a fee with that. I expect the tickets to sell out pretty fast, even though they are $200 a piece, and there's a limit of 2 per person. But I think the event will sell out. Some people are saying they don't think it will. I think it's too good an opportunity. Quentin Tarantino will obviously be there. I wonder if Bruce Dern will still read the role. Apparently, the rumor is it's about a stagecoach, people who are stranded during a blizzard. It reminds me actually of a very famous stagecoach film with John Wayne. I actually watched that on one rainy afternoon on Turner Classic Movies. I had actually taped it, and I was like, okay, I'll finally watch it. And I thought it had a lot going for it. It's a slow film, but I really liked it a lot. And it was, it was younger John Wayne. I've only been familiar with John Wayne's work toward the end of his career, where he'd become a little bit of a stereotype. But it was great to see him fresh in the beginning of his career, right when he was making it big, and I could see the appeal definitely. So I guess this is an homage to Stagecoach. I don't know, but that's basically the film. So if you're interested in seeing that, I think it would be worth checking out. $200 is a pretty penny though. That's a lot of money. It's all going to Film Independent, and it's not being pocketed by anybody. At least so they say. But I think it's worth going to see. It's a fun experience. It's a rare experience. And maybe if someone owes you a gift, an upcoming gift, you can take it, cash in your marker and be like, buy me tickets to the Hateful Eight script reading. But I'm curious to what you guys think. Has anyone here read the Hateful Eight script? If so, do you think it's not good, like some people are saying, or do you think they're just piling on and attacking Tarantino when he's down? And what do you think of Tarantino's decision to just do a script reading instead of actually filming the movie? It's a way to still do it. I mean, and I think it speaks to him maybe not looking for that out if he is going to share it publicly. But I also just think it's a great way for filmmakers to, as Film Independent says, to experience and share film with other people who love film. So I think it's a good idea. I think the ticket price is a little high. There's students apparently can buy. I wonder if there's a student discount ticket. If you're a student, you might want to look into that. But I think it's a nice idea. I like these stage readings, and I'm certainly more interested in something like this, new material, than Jason Reitman's retelling of reimagining of classic films. Although those are very popular, to their credit. All right. So speaking of writing, that brings me to today's viewer question. This is from Jorge Altamirano. Sorry about the pronunciation, guys. Jorge Altamirano. And he says, "Hey, Grace. Honestly, your morning news videos are probably my favorite to watch on YouTube." That is so nice to say, Jorge. Thank you so much. It's a great start to my day. And then he says, "I wanted to ask you if you can go over your writing process for comics. For those of you who don't know, I've written a number of comics. I've written for DC, I've written for Marvel, and the latest thing that I did was an ongoing series for Boom Studios. It started out as an independent, 4-issue standalone. It's called Superbia, by the way. It's available on Comixology. So if you're going to go, and I hope if you're interested in comics, you'll at least try the first issue. You can get it on Comixology. There's a mini series, and then it goes on to an ongoing series which lasted for 12 issues. So in total, it's 16 issues. It's on hold right now. I don't know if it will come back ever. It's a comic book that I wanted to exist in the marketplace. I'm very happy with it. It got good reviews, and I'm happy to say it has lots of stars on Comixology, so I'm very proud of it. And I also want to thank all of you who have picked it up and have told me that you have. That means a lot to me. I appreciate it because it's great. As anyone, I'm sure there are a lot of you who are writers out there, and it's a very special process, and it means a lot to see your work out there in print. All right, so going back to Jorge's question, he said, "I once heard that Diablo Cody liked to write dialogue on one page and then action setting on another, eventually editing them together into a script." Basically, Jorge wants to know, so how do you write out your work, specifically something like a series of comics? I guess he's just looking for, writing advice. And I know a number of people here, I'm sure at one point every film fan wants to try their hand at writing their own screenplay. I've written a few screenplays. I turned to writing comics because I felt there was more of a likelihood of them actually being seen. It's very frustrating to spend so much time on something that you feel might not ever see the light of day. That's why I stopped writing screenplays. so I can really relate to Tarantino. You really put a lot of hard work into them. But I think there are some important rules, and I do have my own process. So if it helps anyone, I'm happy to share. First of all, a lot of people, especially starting out, think they don't need an outline. They're like, I know the story, I know what I want to do, or I'm just going to let it come to me. And I would say that's not a good idea. You definitely need an outline. You need to have some sense of where you're going. It's just a good way to be a disciplined writer. And if you're ever going to work for someone professionally, they're going to want an outline. So you might as well get used to working with one now. Even for comics, everything has an outline. You can have an outline. Generally, every time I worked, I would have an outline for what I was working on, for instance, an issue perhaps. But I still had a greater idea of where things were going a couple issues out so that I could work towards that. I mean, how do you drop Easter eggs if you don't know what you need to tease? So you really need an outline. Now that said, your outline isn't set in stone. If something occurs to you while you're writing, you can of course change things. Things can be adjusted. And I think a good writer is open to change because you never know when you'll be struck by inspiration and get a really good idea that warrants a reworking of everything that you have done to date. But have that outline. Have it somewhere that you can look at. Also, whenever I'm writing, because I feel that this stuff is a business, I always put a couple of words at the top of my outline or my writing space, which says, what I have to hit. And for me, it's always, remember, you want to have sexiness, you want to have that because sex sells, and you want to have action. Basically, action, you want to make sure and then I'll have a list of my characters to make sure that everybody got equal amount of attention. Superbia was a very large cast, so that was something I really had to pay attention to. But remember, what are your selling points? What do you need to have to get your script sold, to get people to want to read it? Make sure you remind yourself not just of the artistic merit your product has to have, but the commercial aspects. So I think writing yourself little reminders like that is important. And always go back and check your work periodically to see if you've done what you're supposed to, if you've implemented that. Also remember what rating are you going for? Do you want to have an R-rated property, PG-13? Is it all ages? Or do you want to push the edge of the envelope? And also be honest with yourself. Are you pushing something so far that you're going to limit your audience? That's also, you have to know that fine line. I think Game of Thrones walks that line very well. They're able to basically, some of you have been asking me, one person in particular, there's rumor they've hired porn actors for Game of Thrones because that's how far they're going. I haven't seen any episode where I'm like, that must be a porn actor, but I believe it could go there. That might be crossing that line. That might be Game of Thrones jumping the porn actor. So we'll see. But I think that Game of Thrones is an excellent example of a show that's able to have a lot of sex, a lot of violence, a lot of action to some degree. I'm sure that those writers we got to put those dragons in there somewhere. That's at the top of their list to remind them of. But they do a good job of still making it seem to some degree mainstream. It doesn't seem like, maybe I shouldn't be watching this. HBO in general is very good at that. So, and also know, by the way, who are you writing for? If you want to write something for HBO, you got to have a lot of sex in it, obviously. If you're writing for network television, you can't. If you're writing for cable, you have to have a mix. And in terms of, film, what rating, as I said, do you want? So you have to always keep those things in mind. You have to kind of watch yourself, be your own producer, so that nobody else has to tell you that. You want whoever is going to hire you eventually or to buy your work to feel confident that you can deliver and that you're a responsible writer and you care about the project as a whole. You're not like a prima donna who just wants to write what they want to write, everybody else be damned, including the reader or the viewer. All right, so that's that part of it. So we outline goals, have that. Now, as for my own specific process, after I've had the outline, and make yourself deadlines. I can't tell you how many times I've written things right at the end of the deadline, like right up to the last minute, like all-nighters, being like, holy crap, this is due tomorrow. It's a lot of work to write a monthly comic, by the way. You would not expect it. I certainly didn't, and I think no matter how much you might think you expect it, you'd be surprised at how much of an effort it is. I loved every minute of it, but there were those last minute writing sessions where I was like, this is due tomorrow. So and the reason I would write them so close to the deadline is because the way I write is that I think about things for a very long time. When I walk home from work, when I'm walking, when I'm getting ready for bed, sometimes I listen to music, but sometimes I think about something I'm writing. Even with scripts for this show, when I'm writing, movie bite scripts or opens, when I'm contemplating things I want to discuss, maybe a morning movie news, a trailer review, if I don't do it, right away. When I'm walking home, I'll be like, well, why did I feel this way about the trailer? I'm always thinking about it and I'm trying to explore it. How can I push this further? How can I make this really epic? I think I spend an incredible amount of time thinking about what I'm going to write, and I work out scenes, so I think that's very important that you should also do that. Really think things through. So when you sit down to finally write, And then, by the way, everyone's writing process is different. This is just mine in particular. But I would just say, you should have some certain pieces already set. So I would be like, okay, I know I want this action sequence in here. I think this is going to be really exciting, and it's different. I really want this scene. I want these characters to have this discussion. This is the point I'm trying to make with this character, so I really need to drive it home here. I want to get this across. So I think those are all important things that you should know about, and just spend a lot of time thinking about what you're doing, because I think that will keep you from having sloppy writing. You want to have a lot of, you want to have a lot of thought to have gone into this. So I would think about things a lot. And I personally will spend most of my time that I have to write something thinking about it and then writing it almost one sitting. I think I would say I write things in about 1 or 2 sittings. Then I read them once over before submitting it, because you never know what you want to change, what doesn't click, typos, wording here and there. So I always do at least 1 pass. Sometimes I'd like to do 2, but I usually, because I'm so close to the deadline, I just do 1. Also, I have to say I'm not a big fan of revisiting things, because I've thought about them so much when I've written them, and I read them over several times while I'm writing it. In the process, go back a page, reread it, that I'm pretty happy with what I have when it's done. As for the actual writing, I think that when I'm writing, and maybe other people do this as well, again, as I said, this is intensely personal, but when I write, I pretend, at least when I was writing Superbia and any comic, and even when I was writing, the screenplays that I'd written, I watched it as if I was watching it actually unfold as the finished work. What would I want to read as a comic book reader? What would I want to see on the big screen as a moviegoer? I would sit there, and it's, when you watch a movie, you're like, wouldn't it be cool if this happened next? That's kind of what I would. I had the power to make that happen next. That's what it was. So I think that I didn't look at things as I didn't look at them as a writer, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I didn't think, oh, this follows certain basic principles of, literature, or look at this character arc, isn't that amazing? Because I already worked that out in the outline. I instead focused on the experience of reading it or watching it. What did I want to see? What was going to be visually interesting? How could I set that up as the writer so that, whoever, the artist, Russell Donnerman was my artist on Superbia. He's now actually, I'm very happy he's upgraded. He did some Nightwing episodes, and he's the new artist on the Cyclops, Young Cyclops series with the Starjammer. So I think that's very exciting to see him get picked up. He's very talented. But so, then I would pass it on to him. But, you need to kind of give those parameters, and you want to give other people, because these are all, when you're a writer for, visual mediums like comics or film or television, you're giving it to someone else to take even further. But you have to give them the tools to fly. Because you're kind of like the framework, the setting. So you want them to fly, you have to give them the wings. You have to give them the bone structure for wings so they can jump off the edge of the cliff. So you have to set that up. And also I would tell you at the same time, especially though, don't give somebody too many notes. Just set up the scenario so they can run with it. Don't tell them how to run, because that's not, people will just end up ignoring what you wrote, and nothing that you put in will get through. You want to be a team player. So think of that as well. But so that's basically what I did. And sometimes I have to say, I would be writing, and something would occur to me that I was like, if this happened right now, that would be amazing. And it was totally not in line with my outline, but I went with it because I thought it would really be fun to see unfold on the page or on the screen. And I think that's a good instinct to follow. And then I would just readjust accordingly. And also I would put the elements in where I would think, what would be a cool visual? How do I get there? And I would work my way backwards from that. What would be a cool development? What would be a cool place to take this character? And how can this reflect on everybody else? So just remember, this is interwoven. It's strings. In terms of plot, the thought process, everything else that's going on. So I guess my basic advice to you is, put a lot of thought into what you're writing. Make sure you have an outline. Remember what you're writing it for, what you want it to achieve, what it needs to achieve to be, competitive and successful, and hopefully get picked up. And then do well once it does get picked up. And also that you are one part of a larger picture. You're not writing a book. You are writing something that someone else is going to have to work off of. An actor, a director, a screenwriter, a cinematographer, in comics, an artist. So you really need to work with them instead of competing with them for who's really has dominance over the final product. A good final product is where everybody is on the same level, working towards the same goal, and that's a great experience for the viewer. It all should be in service. Everything you do, if you're in this business, in my opinion, should be in service of the reader or the viewer, the customer. All right, thank you so much for your question, Jorge. I hope that was helpful. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I hope you'll come back at around noon for those Captain America reviews, and you can check out some more episodes right now.